All right, everyone. Happy 4th of July. Today we're going to talk about ideas about liberty as I'm proud to be an American. And I want to talk about the blessing and bounty that this country is and why we should never lose sight of that to God, and God forbid lose it. So I had an interesting, I read a post on LinkedIn yesterday that I wanted to respond to as as I think it really sheds light on people's misconception of what liberty and freedom is. Almost a backwards understanding of liberty and freedom is. So the post runs something like this. ChatGPT just released recently a feature where you can create your own custom GPTs. And they're rolling out certain features where people can even monetize those, and that is similar to like the App Store model. And so somebody wrote that this is really the trap, the same trap of the App Store, that they lock you into their ecosystem and then they start making their own apps. Remember the flashlight app and the note-taking apps, and this is just a trap that they'll end up monopolizing those features. And I remember seeing this. I was thinking to myself, like, I remember having the exact opposite reaction to the App Store. This was my first software engineering job many years ago. I was building a sign-in app for a company called Repticity, and I was building a so the app like recorded someone coming into a nursing home, and it took a picture of them. And I remember working on their API, and I wanted it to work so that only when there's the faces in front of the camera will it like count down to take the picture. So I remember at that moment thinking like, I never wrote facial recognition software, so why do I have this for free to work with? And then I realized, oh, right, because Apple wants to sell iPads. And they figure that if they make a wide developer platform, then more people will buy that hardware. So it's worth it for them and it's worth it for the engineers. And people have become millionaires. Millionaires. He's worried about the flashlight app and the note taking app. Good grief. The reason why those apps are monopolized is because they just became part of the standard operating system. Because they're very simple things. No one was going to pay $10 a month for that. But look at the amazing millions of dollars that people have become making games and every sort of app and every sort of enterprise app. It's just a miracle. And to look at that and be like, well, that's a trap. Boy, oh boy, that's no trap. If that's a trap, I want to fall into that trap every time. And I went and tried out making custom GPTs. It's amazing. It's a miracle that they created this multi-billion-dollar company has created this technology, and they've allowed you to customize it because it's mutually beneficial. It's amazing. They didn't lock you into anything. I get to enter into a partnership for free with some of the biggest companies in the world, and I get to benefit from their R&D, and they get to benefit from mine. That's a miracle. But you know where it exists that the person is what the person describing is the trap where someone actually gets messed over? That's government, the state. And that's what the founders of this country realized. That freedom means holding down the state. Why? Because the state you can't opt into. Those laws bind everyone. So those laws have to be as light-handed as possible. Those laws always have to be there to protect freedom, not the opposite. Not protecting people getting offended, not protecting people's pocketbooks, not protecting the economy, not protecting people's right to not feel bad. No, that's not the government's job. That's not what the government's for. The government is there to protect liberty. And it's done so for very long in this country. And it's done so even despite major attacks. And so when you hear a fool, such a fool, like a guy like Zoran Mandani coming on and saying, well, we should seize the means of production. You, a guy, a 29-year-old loser who's never worked in a day of his life, you should be entrusted with the means of production, not a guy like Elon Musk. Why should you be trusted with anything? But it's beautiful. We're going to trust anyone with anything. If you get people to part with their money willingly, then you get more success. And then if you get more success, then people will part with their money willingly. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. The foolish people of Venice are so upset that Jeff Bezos chose to spend $50 million in their city. If you can spend this much money, you can pay more taxes. Why would he want to pay more taxes? Look what he just did. You want him to not spend money on wine and bill and hotel rooms and food in Italy? You would rather have that go to your government so they can corrupt it into some stupid program? That's not a better thing. That's ridiculous. That's so crazy. It's such a miracle that these billionaires were able to be successful like they were, because they live in a country. What do you think? Americans are exceptional? It's just a different breed of humanity. It's nonsense. I work with people all around the world. The Americans are not exceptional. They live in a political system which chains down the government. And as much as it's happened, that's been America's success, because freedom is what allows people to be creative. Freedom is what allows people to think. Free speech is what allow people to communicate and come up with ideas. There's no freedom in socialism. Zormandani wants to live in a country where everybody is poor, because they really believe that the reason why they're poor people is because they're rich people, and it's exactly the opposite. The reason why there are less poor people is because there are rich people that didn't make their money by stealing it, by exploiting anyone. They didn't. They made it by creating value. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Thank God humanity figured out how to do this, because before that they were just warring and killing and murdering each other. So God bless America, and hopefully socialism never comes here. And I beg the Jewish community, let's stop focusing on this guy's anti-Israel problem. Because yeah, it's true, he's anti-Israel, Zohar Mandani, and he's an anti-Semite, probably. But that's not. But you know what's so interesting about anti-Semites? Anti-Semites always seem to have really bad ideas about everything else. I'm proud of the fact that a lot of socialists are anti-Semites. I'm not so proud of the fact that a lot of Jews are socialists. But a lot of the big socialists are anti-Semites. I'm proud of them. The fact that the most biggest totalitarian people are anti-Semites. I'm proud of that, because that shows that we stand for something good, and that evil, and that people that hate us are usually evil in many other ways. And so let's focus on that. Let's focus on the fact that Zohar Mandani would destroy New York, and we shouldn't want New York to be destroyed, because New York's fantastic. We know, and we'll say it now, that if Zohar Mandani is elected, he won't focus on criminals. He won't focus on protecting private property. And if you don't do that, then your country will end up he has a third world perspective. Good grief, you want a third world perspective in the first world? The third world hasn't worked out very well. And as far as this big, beautiful bill goes, it's also really socialism. Because if you take money, we have been spending COVID-19 level. We've been at COVID-19 level spending for since COVID. That's insane. Even if you believe that there was justification to spend like crazy during COVID, which I don't. I think it was the stupidest idea ever. The idea that in a supply side problem you would increase the money supply is absurd, right? It wasn't that there was no money. People had money. It was just that you couldn't let anyone work. You destroyed commerce. But anyway, obviously government had a stupid response to COVID. We're doing an episode on that. But the point being is that how could the government justify that sort of spending now in a hard economy? It's just insane. It's just totally insane. And they always go, well, it's been 20 years to get here, and we can't go back. We can't just stop now. Can you imagine a heroin addict saying that, or like a coke addict saying that? We can't just stop now. No, don't be babies. Stop now. Stop spending money you don't have. This is ridiculous. All right. I want to respond to another clip I saw with Dave Smith and Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan seems to have this constant question that goes something like this. I don't understand. Israel managed to do the pagers in Lebanon, and managed to attack very, very accurately in Iran. So why can't they do the same thing in Gaza? So this is absolutely absurd. The idea that Israel would be criticized because of their fantastic successes. Oh, look, you guys are so amazing. You did such a good job in place A and B. You pulled off a miracle. Why can't you do it in place C? There's no expectation that an army should have to pull rabbits out of a hat every time they go in a campaign. That's absolutely absurd. The fact is that Gaza is the most is the most densely populated area in the Middle East, and Hamas's strategy was that they would try get civilians killed. That's why they put every tunnel under a school and under a house. Their goal was to create a situation where Israel would have to kill many civilians in order to prosecute their war. So fine, that's their strategy, and that's the Palestinian strategy. So then they have to get their civilians killed, because Israel has a right to secure their country. And that's the end of that. And I just don't understand, Pierce, how you are so stupid. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? We should just make a campaign to sell beepers in Gaza? Do you think somehow Israel has a bomb that can transport in midair, defying the laws of physics, and then just get under a tunnel? You just skip over the house that's on top of it? Do you think if people shoot rockets from evacuated tents, Israel can't shoot back at that rocket? That rocket certainly means to kill Israelis. The fact that God clearly is protecting the state of Israel by defending against all these rockets does not mean that Israel doesn't have to take a rocket projectile seriously at its people. It's kind of ridiculous. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. These fools have just bought into this propaganda. And so if you believe that Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself, then you should say that. But if Israel has the right to defend itself, then it's the right to defend itself against anything, irrespective of the casualties. That'll for today, guys. Happy 4th of July.